And we are back. Our next guest is a trailblazer in the music industry, a serial entrepreneur. She's also a brand strategist. She's the visionary behind a unique co-working space and business incubator that's actually tailored for women. Now, the space transcends the ordinary, offering more than just a physical setting. It's a dynamic platform fostering growth, learning, and collaboration. Here now is the Renaissance woman herself and success consultant, Cloe Luv, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
God, thank you. So when we talk about this innovation, obviously for you, working in the industry, music industry has been a passion of yours?
Yes, my dad is a musician, descendant of James Brown, so it's run in my blood, and my husband is the producer, main producer, and songwriter for the company.
So for yourself, obviously, having this musical background, it influences you, and then you find, I was talking last time about finding your voice, but now you found your passion.
Yeah, well, my passion is actually just to help people flourish while they help communities flourish. So that's what my passion and my purpose is, per se. But in music, I grew up in music. I grew up in the studios. I was a studio kid. You know, I met a lot of people growing up. I did late nights with my dad sometimes. So I was excited when I was asked to, you know, be a part of Brook Brothers. I was trying to come on as a songwriter, but that wasn't it. I ended up in the business sector of it. I'm the CEO. But I do help here and there. I'm like, you know, we should put these drums here. You know, I still executive produce and do my thing.
Yeah. So for you as a writer, I mean, as being in it right now, you say you've really helped people and yourself. And I want to ask about women with voices, right? Because helping women find their voice and also women with voices. Talk to me about it.
So Women with Voices is my 501c3 nonprofit that was located at Chloe's Corner. That was the headquarters. And I started Women with Voices from my experiences in the music industry. There were so many times people would just walk straight to my husband. They would shake everyone else's hand in the room and just oversee me. And he would constantly have to redirect them to, this is the CEO. This is who has to cut your check.
Right.
And it was just such a crazy experience. And then there's the cattiness sometimes that we see with women on the ladder. But then there's so many amazing women. So we only hear about the cattiness. And I wanted to create a space where all the amazing women who had like minds, who didn't care to be a queen on the island, but build an island of queens, wanted to come together. And so that's going to be a conference. Remember, I said that.
Right.
So, you know, I wanted to build a space for that to help us create that progressive movement together, as well as support in different sectors of where the founders had interest. So mine is business and tech, and so is Chelsea's. It's immigration and tech, and then Jordan is mental health, alopecia, and sexual liberation. Tamika is everything that has to do with family, the give backs, parenting, education, and my husband is on the board as well, and he helps men find the direction to help empower their women without feeling emasculated. So our motto, even though it's for women, we don't turn away men. We do honor men who play a key role in women's empowerment and community, and it's pro us doesn't mean anti-you. So we don't want to be the kind of organization where it's like no guys allowed, right? We want to also build that gap, bridge that gap between us and them. It's we're together, we're a community.
You talked about that, you used an example like, you know, people coming by, they shake the hand of your husband, but yet still they bypass you. What's your feeling while you're doing that? You're like, come on now.
You know, I address it. I always address it.
I can feel it. You seem like the one that's going to say something, right? Okay.
And like, we went to look for a new studio space one time, and the guy came in and shook everyone's hand, and I get it, maybe you don't want to touch the woman or something, but you can have manners, right? I'm West Indian, so it's like have manners and still say good afternoon, good evening, I am. If you don't want to shake my hand, if you don't want to touch me, some people have cultural biases of why they don't do that. So I understand that, but it doesn't mean you don't acknowledge a person's existence in the room. And the guy is like, oh, well, I didn't shake your hand or say anything because I wasn't sure if you were one of their ladies. And we're in a professional setting. And yeah, I am actually his lady, but I'm also his boss. So I'm the one who's here to sign the check if we decide to keep this, you know, take the space. So it's just for men, I just want them to be aware and more conscious of that. It's chauvinistic behavior to say, I didn't want to approach you, a businesswoman with degrees and business acumen, because you were afraid that I was someone's lady and I'm here to sign the check. So I just feel like men have to be more conscious of that in the workplace. We're not in someone's home. We're not at a social setting. This is a work environment. So that part doesn't matter. We're here to do business.
That's a show all by itself. I'm just saying. So talk to me a little about Brothers Music Production.
Brook Brothers. So it
Yes,
stands
Brook
for,
I'm sorry.
no problem. Stands for Brook Brothers, is Brooklyn Brothers.
Right.
I'm a Brooklynite, born and raised.
What part?
So I'm originally from Bed-Stuy, do or die.
Oh, okay.
And then I ended up in the Flossie, Canarsie.
Okay.
But, you know, Brooklyn is, I take Brooklyn very dear to my heart. I do as much as I can to try to cultivate pride for my city. And Brook Brothers is also one of the things that, you know, makes our city pride. It was when we did have the studio for 8 years, everybody was somebody that came to Brooklyn came through there. They shot part of the Biggie documentary, the only official Biggie documentary there. HBO, Simple Mobile. We did so many things in that space. Queen Evans premiered The King and I from that space. The first time we ever heard Lil' Kim sing on a track, it came from that space. So, you know, Brook Brothers was a place for talent to come and get that Manhattan sound and quality without having to pay those prices. So it was a place where a lot of people got, you know, what they needed to move to the next levels.
The feeling for you to be able to provide that, right? Because obviously that has impact. And,
Yeah.
you know, these people have, you know, historical moments, and you have historical moments, because now you say, listen, you know what? We were the ground for this.
Yeah.
So the feeling like that, what's that feeling for you?
So for a while, you know, and I had to work through these things. I was so caught up in just what needs to be done that I never sat in the feeling. I just was moving on to what needed to be done next. I did what I needed to do, and I wouldn't give myself and the flowers, if you will, is what people say.
Right.
And this is something that my husband and my sister, who is here with us, is constantly talking to me about, is celebrating the small wins. Because my tagline was the next youngest black billionaire, there wouldn't be a smile until the $1 billion.
Right.
It was like, oh, we did nothing. There's work to do. I don't care
Right.
that there's 500 million in there. We'll smile when it's $1 billion. So I had to learn to really sit back and reflect, like, wow, I was able to be gracious and find gratitude in it, because that's how you get more of it as well, to be able to create that impact. So being able to do something like that, I hope that it inspires others to do the same, to really just pour out what you can. And of course there were some mistakes, of course there were losses, of course there were days where it's like, what am I doing? But I wouldn't change anything for the world, because I learned so much, I gained so much, and I built so much, even for myself, my resilience, my strategies on those mistakes. And even though they were hard at the moment, so many people got to benefit from it. So it's worth it.
Your sister's good. Celebrate small wins. I talk
Yeah,
about that all the time.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
you got to. I mean,
Shout out
I
to
think that,
Chelsea.
I think you
Yeah.
have to, because you can be so caught up in it
Yeah.
that you really don't realize how much you've done,
Yeah.
or what you're doing, or
Yeah.
the impact of it. So
But one thing I would say from experience is your circle, the people who are close to you, that is so important. Outside of Chelsea, she's also part of the circle. She's my sister, but she's my kid's godmother. I have a group of women called my fairy godmothers.
okay,
And Tamika, who is also on the board for Women with Voices, Jordan, who's also on the board, Shani, Ashley, Tasha, and Sasha. These women do not allow me to forget. They are, if I walk across the street and the light is green on time, they're like, good job. Like, they celebrate every waking moment. Sasha's at the studio with me, producing the podcast, coming up with, if I say I want to build a rocket, she would go find the engine and parts. We would be out there blowing stuff up, but she's going to try.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
Shani with I mean, everything that I think about, these women are so ready and willing to say, well, let's try it out. And it doesn't matter if we fail, we're going to try because we believe in you. And they're constantly reminding me, you did this, you did that, and you're doing this, and this is impactful, and you need to. They take me out. They don't let me forget.
Right.
So it's important. They have a great relationship with my husband, so they're always planning stuff. It's important to make sure that if you're not that person, that the people around you see the value and see you and will remind you and pull you from those places of overworking and just really focusing on the next step without taking a breather and without that self-care.
So for yourself, this is really, that passion, right? That you got, and you got a good team around you.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, what kind of advice do you give to someone else when we talk about that? Because that team could be the ones that can really help you to get there.
Yeah.
Or we've seen the self-destruction that
We've seen the self-destruction
right.
in a lot of ways. So, they're different teams. So just because someone is there to motivate you or to be that person to show up for you doesn't mean that that's someone who needs to be on your company team, right? So I feel like knowing the discernment, we've also seen so many times where it's like, my brother's in a business, but I gotta fire my brother, or my cousin Pookie ain't doing what they need to do. And you have to know where someone's value is in your life. So you may have that team that's there for celebration and always showing up to the events and always going to be there, but it doesn't mean that that person is good with social media management, right? It doesn't mean that that person is a good VP.
Exactly.
So we see a lot of relationships falter because we're putting people in positions that didn't belong there. You really have to evaluate your circle and see people for who they are and not just putting someone there because it's family, you want to put family on. Family may just be there to support sometimes how they can in their capacity, and you can't fault them if they're not a good, C-level person because that may not be what they're built for.
Exactly.
So it's really auditing your circle in the sense of knowing where everyone can play a role.
Let's go back to the music industry for a bit before we wrap up. Talk to me about what tips would you have after having so much history. I mean, that's a show all by itself. Couple podcasts, that's a series. But from your perspective, that you know how to encapsulate. It just sounds like, what are some of the things that people really need to know?
So what I say to people in the music industry, I say to people in business. You have to know your brand. You have to know your brand values, your messaging, who you're talking to, what they're getting from this, what makes you unique. And you also have to know that your success is not what you see out there. Do not compare yourself to the artist that is touring everywhere and making $100 million. If you can work a job and make $70,000 a year, and you can make $70,000 a year as a musician, you are successful. You have replaced your 9-to-5 for your passion. And if more people understood that and thought like, well, I'm making 6 figures as a musician, I am successful. I'm doing what I love. And someone else is, and there's nothing wrong with working a 9-to-5, but if that's not what you want to do and you're able to still make that type of money, there's success in that. Now, while you're not scaling, that's a whole, you may have to contact someone like me and we may need to talk about brand strategy and stuff like that. But look at music as a business like anything else. I feel like a lot of people, entrepreneurs and creatives, they're the same mindset. They're visionaries. They want to do this thing. They're passionate, but they don't understand the business structure of it. I don't care if you're selling candles. I don't care if you're coaching. I don't care if you're a musician. You need to be looking at building business credit. You need to be looking at how this is a business. You need to be looking at different ways to distribute your talents, right? So for me, for our music company, we don't just wait for an artist to go platinum or anything like that. We do TV. We do sync licensing. We do a lot of other things. Look for other places to still serve and make your money in music.
So on March 25th, you got something special happening?
Yes.
Putting this all together, got a little boot camp, huh?
Yes. So for the boot camp, we want to really honor Women's History Month and make history together. We are focusing on women starting their 7-figure businesses, and we are running a 5-day boot camp to implement the 5 untold secrets on how to structure, launch, and sustain a 7-figure business. And I'm really excited about that because we usually do panels. We've done grants and stuff for Women's Month, but we celebrate the history that happened behind us, but let's celebrate the history that we can create together. And this is what that boot camp is about. And I'm hoping that we have hundreds of women, maybe thousands of women sign up for this boot camp,
Right.
and that they're ready to start this business. They're ready to take their name in history. You know, they're ready to leave something behind for their families. And families doesn't just mean children. You may be that aunt who put that nephew on, right? That aunt
Right.
that left that estate for that nephew or that niece or, you know, that sister, that little sister or something. So we're ready for more women to stand up and not be a part of the 66% that fail in the first year or the 80-something% that fails in the second year, but give you the tools and the things that includes business credit. I talk about business credit, and
Okay.
all the tiers and when you're supposed to implement them.
Right.
You know, so that's what the boot camp is. It has a lot of substance. I've attended other people's programs, no disrespect to other coaches. I've gone through other programs, and there's a lot of fluff and there's a lot of things that they tell you, but they keep the best for themselves.
Right.
I don't do that.
You just let it all out.
Yeah, I don't do that.
So
If
just-
I eat steak, you eat steak. If I like T-bone, you're gonna eat T-bone. I'm not giving you flank steak.
I'm coming. You say guys are coming. I'm coming.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Men are invited. I don't turn away men at all. I focus on women because of how underserved the community is. But the majority of my clients, as a one-on-one consultant, have been men.
Wow. For real.
Yeah, as a consultant,
Well,
have
that's
been
good.
men.
I mean, listen. We need the help. So,
Absolutely.
March 25th. How do people get? How do people get in touch with boot camp?
So Instagram, it's Cloe Luv, CLOELUV, no H, no O,
Okay. There it is.
no E. So it's Cloe Luv across the board: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, the website CloeLuv.com. Consistent branding.
Just find her. Right? You know, that's it.
Absolutely.
And before we leave, you said you're a descendant of.
James Brown.
Okay. Tell us about the lineage. You go just say, like,
Yeah,
I'm a descendant of James Brown.
So he was, I think maybe I was at one family reunion with him years ago when I was small. And of course, you know, he passed. So my dad is a musician as well. He was in a group when he was younger with his brothers called the Electric Rubber Bands. It's so funny every
The
time
Electric
I say
Rubber
it.
Bands,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
So he's been a key role in building my music empire as well. When we decided to close the location at Industry City after 8 years, he built an elaborate home studio for us in his home, and that's where we've done interviews there. He surprised us one day and was like,
Here
"You guys have this whole studio." So,
Wow.
you know, shout out to Rich, Mix Master Rich is what he goes by, and he's an amazing inspiration, and he's always just, I'm like, okay, I want to build this studio. He'll tell you the pros and the cons. Maybe
Right.
sometimes he go heavy on the cons,
Right.
but once he knows that I'm determined, he's gonna be like, okay, well, let's work through it. My mom is just like, you can do it.
right.
It's like from jump, she's with it, you know.
So she comes with it. You could do it. He's got the con.
I'm able
so that's
to
great
do
balance.
No, well, I'm the reason I am able to. I'm like, I'll build a plane is because of who my mom is. If
Right.
I left a 7-figure job and said I wanted to start a magazine, my mom would be like, well, what do we need? She's never gonna keep me pigeonholed to something that doesn't serve me.
Cool. They got a sister on side talking
Yeah.
about celebrate wins. You know, you got the circle, right?
Yeah, yeah. God is great, man.
Well, that's good. Well, Chloe, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It
I
was fun.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Got to come again.